Hey, you guys, welcome to part two of What is Shamanism? My name is Bear. Thank you for coming. I'm really glad you're here. So, the last one we talked about that I recorded like 5 seconds ago was about the differences in a very general overview of the differences between the attitudes and practices of traditional Western urban religions and the hill peoples. The primitive people. Again, I hate that word. I'm going to say it every time I have to say primitive because I hate it. Anyway, so on this one, I seek to get a lot more into the nitty gritty about what is shamanism exactly, how it works, and the way the worldview works. So, shamanism is primarily centered around altered states of consciousness. So, and there's a couple of different ways of getting there. And so, before we get into that, what the altered states of consciousness does, like meditation, it shuts your body off so you can use your mind to travel. Your mind, I know I always use the analogy of a house, but the house is really big. Your house is infinite, right? It's enormous. It's bigger than everything. You have no idea how big you are. And using altered states of consciousness to use your mind allows you to leave your body and go about certain business. Whether or not you're doing spiritual healing work, whether or not you're finding a lost item, whether you're going to go talk to a god or goddess or earth spirit or what have you. There's whether you're going to go find game. There's a bunch of things that the shaman does. And it takes a lot of time and a lot of practice to be able to get to do that. It takes work. And I know I hammer this home all the time, but Westerners are really bad about this. They want to do 2 seconds of training and then call themselves a master. You can't do that. There is no such thing, right? The shamans, they go about their work, and it has taken them their entire lives. Right. We're not talking about little quick lessons here. We're talking about an entire life worth of practice. So, with that set aside, so what the shaman does is he goes to what's sometimes called the other world. Some places, I think the Aborigines maybe call it dreamtime. You call it the spirit world, the world of the mind. Metaphysics, but you leave your body with your mind and you go and do certain things. Now, that is the 10-minute version of what the 2-minute version of what shamanism is, right? Is essentially that. But there are certain worldviews that kind of go along with that. So the shaman is considered the one who gets to straddle 2 worlds at once. The shaman is the person, whether it be a male or female, who gets to both be alive in the sense that you're incarnated, in the incarnation sense of being alive, and they get to be dead in the exoteric sense, in the way that you're not in your body, you're in the land of spirits. And this is a rather unique phenomenon, and it's really strange. Speaking this way is really strange to Westerners. I'm a Westerner, and it was really strange for me too when I first started researching this and getting into it. Because Westerners even in highly spiritual circles, still have a very strong what's the word? They don't like saying that something happens in your mind, right? Because if you say something is in your mind, people think, oh, you're crazy. It's just in your head. You're just imagining something. But the most religions out there, at some point or another, will tell you that that isn't correct. That the world of your mind is closer to the reality of the universe than being incarnated is. In fact, being incarnated is actually a step away from reality and into its own special little space in the universe. Being able to leave your body and use your mind is actually stepping out of that confinement, right? The underworld, stepping out of your internment and actually participating in the true nature of reality. It seems backwards. It does. It seems backwards. To like the Western mind, people go, what? You know, it freaks people out. People, you know, they think that because it's in your mind, it's fake. But a lot of interesting stuff comes from there. A lot of really interesting stuff comes from there. So, how do you do this? Well, you do this by achieving an altered state of consciousness. And there's various ways of doing this. And different cultures have their favorite way. There are some groups out there who will dance. They'll build a big fire and the shamans will dance for 24 to 48 hours without rest. And at some point they get so exhausted that they start to hallucinate and then they enter the other world. Some people take drugs, ayahuasca, peyote, psilocybin mushrooms. There's a bunch of them. You could actually, there's a way to use pot for this. Most people don't use pot this way, but you can, if you go close yourself off in a really dark space, no lights, you take just a crap ton of marijuana, way more than you think would be possible, and then just sit there and watch the light show happen. You can use it as a hallucinogen. Most people don't, mostly because most people don't know that you can use it as a hallucinogen. Making a cedar tea. This is, most people don't realize this, that cedar is a mild hallucinogen. I don't personally recommend this, but you know, people do. You can take cedar and put it in, make a tea out of it and drink it, and it'll make you really sick, and it's a mild hallucinogen. You'll start seeing stuff. The other way is there's I'm from the Northwest, and there's a lot of tribes in my area who crap, I'm gonna forget what it's called. It's like, it's not Sundance or Vision Quest. Vision Quest is another one. We'll talk about that in a minute. I forget what it's called, but it's where you hallucinate through pain. So what you do is they'll tie hooks, use hooks and hook them into your back, into your skin, and you're hung by those hooks. And the pain is really excruciating, of course. And then through that pain, much like Odin hanging from the world tree, you start to hallucinate. And then through those hallucinating like that, you enter the other world. The way I do it, and the way most people do it nowadays, is through either there's certain breathing techniques that'll get you there. Particularly, like, you could look up the Wim Hof breathing method. He's someone who really pushes that, which is fantastic. But also just very deep meditation. And that the way you do it is through drumming, vocalization, repetitive movement, and practice. So you do that through relaxation, breathing, vocalization, drumming, and you start to shut your body down. Then at some point, your body kind of disappears. We covered that in the meditation video. And then with your mind, then you're free to leave. And this way is less painful, but takes a lot more self-discipline and a lot more practice to achieve what you're looking for. In a lot of people, they like the hallucinogens. The thing with the hallucinogens and the other methods I was telling you about is that they it's like riding a horse, and the horse rides you up the mountain. You don't ever develop the strength of mind, right? Because the drug just takes you there. But with the drumming and some of this other stuff, it actually requires a lot of effort and strength on your part. And if you develop that strong mental wherewithal, if you develop that strong mental muscle, you could go whenever you need to. You don't have to wait until you get some drugs in order to do it. So essentially what we're dealing with here is the same thing that the monks do, right? These monks are standing on their heads and doing this stuff. You get to a point where your body disappears and you don't notice it there anymore. And with enough practice and enough time, the other world becomes as real and as vibrant as our own. It just takes practice. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of work, and people don't want to do that. I know I really hammer on people about that a lot. The truth is, you guys, you got to be willing to do the work. For one summer, there's I didn't really know what I was getting into at the time, but I worked at a summer retreat here in Oregon. I live in Oregon. And it's kind of a hippy dippy camp, kind of up in the mountains. I thought it'd be kind of fun, So when I was training there, I went there to learn it was a job interview basically. I was listening to some of the people talk, and they're like, oh yeah, it's some new age movement, hocus pocus thing that has just been invented or whatever. And they're like, yeah, I studied vigorously for like a month, like 30 days. And then after studying for 30 days, now I'm qualified to teach it. And I teach classes and workshops on whatever it was. And I remember shaking my head thinking, holy crap. 55 years was the amount of years that required to become a high priest in Egypt. 55 years of study. To become a druid in Britain, it was a minimum training period of 13 years, and you weren't even really considered worth talking to until you've studied for 30. People, they want their presents early, if you know what I mean. I make no bones about the fact that I'm still learning, right? I'm still studying under somebody. I'm still pretty early on in this process. You got to know, I am definitely not a master of mysteries. I'm still working on my stuff. All right. I'm doing this because I have a certain skill set, and I have reached a certain level that makes me qualified to teach some stuff. So, but I'm getting off on a rabbit trail again. But you gotta be willing to do the work. I'm sorry, folks. You have to be willing to do the work. You want to get anywhere, you have to spend the time and attention that is required to get you to where you need to be. And if you're a lazy person, you're not going to get there. You're not, you know, I'm sorry. So, anyway. So what we're going to do, I'm about 15 minutes in. I'm going to spend the next 10 minutes or so explaining how to get into a shamanic trance. And I'm going to give you some simple, very safe exercises to do to practice. And practice is important. Okay. Practice is important. So I'm going to go through what a very simple thing to do is, a very good way to practice is, and then in the next section, we're going to start talking about law, spiritual law, and the things that are important to keep in mind when you're journeying. All right, so you can either, the stuff I'm going to teach you today is going to be very safe. There's nothing to worry about. But if you makes you feel better, you can wait to the next part and then the next section, and then you'll get to know some of the law and stuff in case you're worried. All right. Which was a lot of like what Angelua was asking me about. She was asking me about law and that kind of thing. And it's hard to sum up in an email, but that's just what it is. Okay. How to achieve a shamanic trance. We've covered a lot of this already in the meditation video. If you're already good at meditation, this will be fairly easy. If you're not good at meditation, this is going to be a little bit harder, but perfectly doable. Put yourself in a dark space. If you don't have a dark space, a blindfold will work. You want to find a space where you will not be interrupted, where a dog barking isn't going to bother you. You don't want to be pulled out of this. There are certain risks that are taken when you do a shamanic journey. You're separating your mind from your body. And if for some reason you're jolted back, like someone comes in, like your kid wakes you up, or your spouse walks in the door, or your dog barks, and you get snapped back into your body, it could be a very violent and uncomfortable process and can result in soul loss. That's just a caveat. So the really important thing to remember is that you got to do it safe. You got to do it smart. There's a reason why shamans are considered specialists. All right. Find a place you will not be bothered. Find a dark spot, and if you have to, put in earplugs and then blindfold yourself. That's also fine. I do most of my journeying after my kids and wife go to sleep. I lock myself in my bathroom because it's dark in there. There's no windows. I put a towel under the door, and I do it in my bathtub. Or because I work from home, or I do it when my kids and my wife are gone. That's another good time. In which case, I do it in the bedroom where it's comfortable and dark as well. So you get yourself comfortable, whether it's in a chair, whether it's laying down, whether you're doing, the meditation pose, with your hands on your knees, whichever is easiest for you. I'm going to start by breathing. And you start doing what I call the mini game, which we talked about in the last video, the meditation video, which is you inhale oxygen, And with each exhale, you try and see how much tension you can get out of your body with each exhale. The goal of the mini game is to get more tension out each time. Sometimes you don't think, I can't possibly get any more relaxed. And you try it and you can. So you focus on your breath. You do the breathing. Tension goes out. And take your time. For the love of God, take your time. Work your way, do a mental checklist of your body. Sometimes when your eyes are closed, you're actually staring really hard with your eyes closed. You know, relax your forehead. People forget to relax their forehead. Relax your neck. You know, people don't realize they're holding a lot of tension in their shoulders and their pecs and even in their feet. So a good way around that is if you're having trouble getting a muscle to relax the way it is, you poke it. You kind of like this shoulder, for some reason, I always get knots right here, kind of above my pectoral muscle. And if you kind of poke it and just kind of rub it a little bit, it tells your brain to relax that. It for some reason it creates a pathway or something, and you're able to relax it. Really take your time. Just really focus on relaxing, feeling yourself getting heavier and heavier and heavier and heavier. And you just keep focusing on your breath. You keep just trying to relax. You, if a thought comes, you just let the thought come and you let it go. It just comes in, it goes. It's going to be really hard at first to control your thoughts. It's easier with practice. You can't keep thoughts from coming, but you can control the flow. Understand what I mean? So you control the flow. Thought comes, you just let it go. Thought comes, you just let it go. You relax deeper and deeper into your bed or your chair or your pose or whatever it is. At some point, after taking a lot of deep breaths, what we're dealing here is with chemistry. You start to relax, your body starts getting fully oxygenated, all that tension is starting to go. And what begins to happen, and if you're not experienced, it could take a while. Just understand that. It could take a while to get to this point. It gets easier with experience. Your body starts learning how to do it. Eventually, you'll get to a point where you're so relaxed, you're so heavily oxygenated, that the world around you will kind of start to just disappear. You'll kind of feel like you're floating. Your body will just kind of cease to be aware of itself. I used the example in the meditation video about it's like putting on a wedding ring or like a shirt or something. When you first put it on, you know, you take your hand and put your hand on your other hand. At first, you feel it. You could feel your hand there. You could tell that it's there. But after a while, your mind will say, okay, well, this isn't important anymore. I don't have to keep feeling this. And so it shuts off the circuit. And you don't feel it anymore. You could just, there. You could feel it there. And then you just, after a few minutes, it disappears. And you won't feel it anymore. And this happens with your whole body. You do enough, you relax, you do enough breathing, your body will start to kind of shut down, and you won't really feel it there anymore because it just kind of just sinks into a nothing soup. And it's easy at this point to fall asleep. And if you fall asleep, don't sweat it. It's perfectly natural. Nothing bad's going to happen. All right. Enjoy your nap if that happens. This is where mental strength kind of comes in. So with practice, you can keep your mind alert during this whole time, during this whole process. And at that point, you start picturing yourself somewhere. So there's a few ways of doing this. A really common way is picturing yourself walking down a path. You pay attention to the stuff around you. And at some point, the terrain around you will stop being under your control. Right? You're not deciding where the trees are. The trees are just there, just like it is here. And at the point when all that changes and the environment is its own thing, you've officially reached the other world. The way I like to do it, which is the safer way, is to picture yourself in what I call like your inner temple or your happy place. And so this place can be an office that you feel safe and that you have a real strong connection to. It could be a childhood bedroom. It could be a forest floor or a glen. It could be a cave. It could be a field. It could be some standing stones. It could be on a boat. You know, just picture yourself in this place. And you start wandering around your happy place, your inner temple. And you go around and just start feeling things. You know, what are you wearing? What is the floor like? What is the ground like? Is it dirty? Is it gravel? Is it grass? Is it wood? Is it a wood floor? What does the air smell like? You know, just practice breathing and taking in the air. You know, what sounds are there? Are there any animals there? What is the trees doing? Are you inside? Are you outside? Is there a fire burning in a fireplace? What furniture is there? And just start practicing using your senses. It's very common. So we're used to using our senses all the time. We have 5 main senses and like 360 some odd other senses that Westerners just don't think about. We have a lot of senses we just don't use because Westerners are idiots. So going with the 5-sense model, typically 2 senses are highly developed and the other 3 are significantly diminished. And it takes time to build those up. For me, my sense of sound and my sense of touch are fantastic. They're like spot on. But my sense of sight, my sense of smell, and my sense of taste are significantly diminished in the other world. So they get better, but it just takes work and practice, right? So just be prepared for that. But just practice being in that other space. And you'll be surprised on how difficult this is. I mean, it takes real work. It takes real concentration to be able to maintain this space. But with time, it gets easier and easier. Now, things that make it easier are ritual. So the things that make going to alternate much easier is if you have certain clothes you always wear only for ritual. Whether it's a hat, a mask, a blanket, something that is only used only for your specific rituals. It's used for nothing else. And much like sleep hygiene, like whatever your ritual is, you know, you read your book, you brush your teeth, you take your shower, whatever. You do the ritual, your body starts shutting down for sleep. Well, if you do the ritual for your journey, your body starts to shut down and gets ready for the journey. So specific clothing or something or a specific place you go to only for journeying will make a big difference in keeping you there because it trains your mind to get into that spot. Drumming. I have my drum up here. Ugh. For me personally, this is really important thing. the drum vibrates at the same general frequency as the earth does. And you feel it in your chest, and it really kind of envelops you. And you ride, in shamanic language, they say you ride the drum. You ride the drum into the other world. So you follow the sound of the drum into the altered state of consciousness. And this takes a little bit of practice. Usually when people first start out, they find some sort of chant music or something to listen to. It takes a little bit of practice because you actually have to be moving to make the drum work yourself. And that could be challenging. But if you can do it, it's worth it. The better the ritual, the better your results will be. So we're talking about like burning sage, putting down a circle, wearing specific clothing, drumming, taking the time to get into the trance. Now, the most important thing, and I can't believe I didn't cover this yet, is you got to remember the phrase concentration rooted in intention. Okay. Concentration rooted in intention. Concentration is like, is what points the car in the right direction, and intention is what gets you there. Without a strong intention of why you're going and how you're going to get there, journeying is nearly impossible. And it's the same thing with meditation. Without the intent, with a strong intention, journeying is going to be nearly impossible. And your intention could be just very basic. We're talking about like, my intention is to journey to my special place to look around. Sometimes that's all you need, right? My intention is to go and look for my pocket watch. Okay. My intention is to journey and to go look and see what the Germans are up to. Okay. You see what I mean? Your intention is very important. Without a strong intention, it's going to be very difficult. So you ground yourself in your intention, and with concentration, you allow that to carry you through your journey. Now coming back is really important. So this is, there's different kinds of journeys. This is the safe one. This is when you're not going to encounter any spirits or anything like that out there. We'll go into that in the next one. But for this one, it's pretty simple, okay? The journey is pretty basic. So you come back the same way you came in. The only way out is in. The only way to get out is to go back the same way you came in, through the same doors. So if you came to your special place through a door, you exit the same way. All right. If you just appeared in your sacred space, you leave the same way. You find your sacred space, you go to the same spot you were when you came in, and then you leave that way. And the way you leave is you very carefully and very slowly pull your mind back to consciousness. This is really important. Don't just leave and just snap back. You can result in soul loss. Be very careful with that. There's still risks, all right? There's rules. Very slowly bring yourself back to consciousness and just slowly wake up. Slowly feel yourself settling back into your body. The better you get at this, the more and more of yourself leaves at once. And sometimes it takes a little bit of an adjustment to kind of get settled back in. All right. Take the time to do it slow, do it right, do it safely. Once you fully kind of get back in your body, you kind of just slowly start moving your limbs, and eventually you open your eyes and you feel like you've had a fantastic nap. Studies have shown, scientists have measured shamans doing this, the effect that it has on your brain, the effect that the shamanic journey has in your brain is the equivalent of like an 8-hour sleep. It does phenomenal stuff to your body. Doing the journey is an amazing thing for your body. Gives you a lot more energy. You feel fantastic. You can run a mile. It's awesome. It's great stuff. So this is the end of part 2. So part 3, I'm probably not going to be able to record it today. We'll see how it goes. We're going to get into a lot more. We'll start talking about other kinds of journeys. They're far more dangerous. And we're going to start getting into law, which is really important. So if you can't wait for the next video, the journey I just described is perfectly safe. The other ones are quite a bit more dangerous, and we'll explain law and how it works and so on and so forth. All right, my friends, I love you, and I'll see you in part 3. Oh, and I may not do part 3 right away. Like I said in part 1, I do want to get into astrotheology and symbol reading before too long. So one of those might happen first, maybe not. We'll see how I feel. All right, bye-bye.